Consumer spending has declined 10.2% in January from December. The latest edition of the Beforepay Cost of Living Index shows spending decreased in all categories except utilities. Joining me live is Beforepay CEO James Twiss. James, first off, tell us about Beforepay, because I don't know much about it.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here. So Beforepay, we're a mission-driven organization, and our goal is to give people a safer and affordable way of borrowing a small amount of money for a short period of time, usually a few $100s for a few weeks just to tide them over.
Okay, now with your organisation, with that goal, you also do stacks of research, AI-driven in many spaces, and spending decreased in all categories.
That's exactly right, Tim. So as part of the way that we do our business, we have a lot of transaction data about everyday Australians, and that's for the artificial intelligence. But we can also see what's happening in the broader economy. And what we've seen in January is that, like many years, we had a party in December, and now we've got the hangover. So consumer spending fell more than 10% between December and January. It does decline every year, but that double-digit drop is higher than usual. And that shows that everyday Australians really are doing it tough these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Entertainment and durable goods shopping fell by 10.4% and 14.4%. So double digits everywhere.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we expected shopping to be down quite a bit because Christmas people are out there buying presents, obviously. But the cutbacks were across the board. So Australians went out less, they spent less money on groceries. They even drove less in order to respond to the higher petrol prices. The only two categories that we saw go up were utilities, as you mentioned, which was because we had hot weather and people were turning on the air conditioning. And then regular as clockwork, we always see gym memberships go up every January.
People with all their intentions for 2024, of course. Now, general shopping, 33.3%. That seems a remarkable drop.
Yeah, so there are two things happening there.
Yeah.
One is in December, people are out buying presents for their loved ones, and that obviously comes off the boil a bit in January. But the other thing that we see, which drives a lot of decreases, is that people just know they need to cut back. They need to pay off that Christmas that they've just incurred, and that's why we see those other category reductions, and that hits shopping as hard as anything else.
Now, we've been talking this morning to both our real estate experts and political experts about the last year or so, last 2 years. Before that, the RBA said we weren't going to get any interest rate rises. We had over a dozen of them. All sorts of things have made this cost of living crisis really bite. The impact of what you're talking about here is all important in that inflationary space. What happens to interest rates?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we are seeing inflation start to come off the boil just a little bit. And the RBA has expressed some sense that they may be getting closer to their target zone. But unfortunately, it looks like we could still have interest rates elevated for some period of time. And that's going to hit people with mortgages, and it's going to hit the broader economy. And if that starts to flow through to wages and employment, then that'll make the situation pretty difficult for a lot of Australians.
It was quite a drop, wasn't it, though? I know it's not sort of in line with the US, which is around the 3, so we still need to bring it down a bit. But there is talk that there could be some interest rate rises at the back end of the year. I think a lot of people got their fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, for some cuts, absolutely. So I think if we can get that core inflation down further, hopefully that gives the RBA some confidence to act. Now, the real question from the everyday Australian point of view is where is that inflation decrease going to come? Because while we've still seen that average around 4%, a lot of the categories that are very hard to cut back on, like food and housing, are running still well above that. So the sooner we can get those costs down, the better.
What's your crystal ball view of 2024? It's hard to forecast what's going to happen in an hour, let alone a year, but we'd like to do it on this program.
Yeah, well, that's a fair enough question. So here's my best prediction, and goodness knows these things always age like milk, but if the RBA can actually engineer that soft landing that we've been looking for, and if we see that core inflation come down, then I'm hopeful we'll start to see those interest rate cuts coming through before any real damage is done to the real economy, to wages and employment. So that would be the dream scenario.
Yeah, let's hope it comes true. James, good to see you. We'll do it again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.